Everybody, I hope you're having a great Sunday for you here, and here's a look at your thumbnail image for today, and it involves more severe weather, unfortunately, for you here. The damaging winds 60 to 80 miles per hour for some portions of the Midwest today. Huge hail 1 to 3 inches in diameter, as well as a few tornadoes. And we also have this week's outlook for temperature and precipitation. That's all coming up in this video, so stick around for the next 7 to 10 minutes or so. So here's a look at your Saturday storm reports. You can see we did have 13 tornado reports. A lot of reports to get to here. We had a lot of large hail reports getting going here from portions of North Missouri back in portions of Nebraska. Also a zone with just some hail and wind. I say just some hail and wind. That's enough to cause damage for us here in portions of Oklahoma and Texas. Some of those wind reports in a portion of Louisiana, but the hot spot for some of those tornadoes was in eastern South Dakota as well as portions of western Minnesota. Again, that area was not under the very high risk or any sort of really risk for severe weather yesterday, which is why you have to really be mindful of these storms, even if you're not in the severe risk zone. Be ready to get in that safe place, that in the lower, most interior room of your house. We also have seen some of those hail reports go as far east as Indiana. Here's why that storm complex is pushing eastward. It's moving around a high pressure zone for us here, and it's going to curl on into Virginia, Kentucky, the Carolinas, Tennessee, places like that as we go throughout the rest of the day today. While it does weaken, of course, we will see some more storm activity into portions of the upper Midwest today. More storms as well into portions of Texas and Oklahoma. So it's really just a rinse and repeat kind of pattern for you here. There's more of that low pressure. I can count so many different L's on this map. It's not even funny. There's a lot of different areas of low pressure. We've got troughs, we've got fronts, just a whole lot of warm air pushing northward with these warm fronts, and then the cool air allows for the thunderstorms to pop up every day. A good risk for some flooding as well as severe thunderstorms into portions of Iowa, Illinois, Missouri, Nebraska, and Kansas. So that's a zone where we really have to watch out because, you might be trying to get in your basement, but there's going to be water down in your basement, so you got to be ready to really improvise in those situations. We also have a level 2 risk for severe weather that's going to get going for you here. South central Oklahoma and north central Texas. Rainfall going as far east as to that East Coast zone for us here, even places like New York City, Philadelphia getting in on some of that. Here's a look at those Sunday high temperatures forecasted for us here. We've got 90s going as far north as portions of Kansas, even into portions of northwest Missouri. It's going to be very hot today. Also notice some 80s really working into portions of many areas in the south and southeast. We've got mid-80s in many of these spots. Temperatures in Florida near 90 today. A little bit cooler back out west, temperatures in the 70s in many spots in the northeast. And we do have critical fire weather threat for here in northeast New Mexico with an elevated zone around that. And here's why. We have these gusty winds. See some of those pinks and purples in that zone for you here. That's where we could see some of that low relative humidity and those wind gusts, 30 to 50 miles per hour. Also, across many areas of the plains, we'll see at least some south winds gusting around 20 to 30 miles per hour, which is certainly enough to assist in creating some of those thunderstorms, bringing in that warm air as it meets up with that dry line for you here. And here's a look at your Sunday severe weather threat. You can see the level 2 and level 3 threat is focused for you here around portions of Iowa, so Des Moines will get in on this. Northern Missouri, we see this into portions of northeastern Kansas for us here, eastern Nebraska. Also notice how the level 1 risk, that's going to be for the leftover remnants of yesterday's thunderstorms as they push down towards the Carolinas, North Georgia, North Alabama. And then there's another risk for some of those hail and gusty winds into portions of South Oklahoma and North Central Texas. Your tornado risk, again, is going to be focused in that Iowa zone for today. A level 2 tornado risk, so definitely not the highest we've seen, but I'm still anticipating at least a few probably brief, weak tornadoes in that zone. Your Sunday wind risk is definitely going to be on the higher end in that area as well, where we could see in that little dash line area there, as well as in your Texas zone. That's where we could see some of these gusty winds make their way on up in excess of hurricane force. That is going to be quite in the hurricane force line for you there. Also some of these gusty winds into portions of South Dakota. And then as we go with your hail risk, again, a zone where we're looking at tornadoes, wind, hail, all in place. That's that Iowa zone where we could see some of this hail 2 inches in diameter, as well as back into that Texas and Oklahoma zone. Here's a look at the dew points surging northward today. Definitely higher dew points in the southern zone with that Gulf moisture readily available, those dew points getting into the 70s, but we'll see some of these 60s for the north, plenty of support for the thunderstorms. Also notice how we've got 50s and 60s filling in for many areas along the East Coast, and you can see the available energy just skyrocketing, pinks and purples, all the way from portions of the upper Midwest back to that Gulf Coast region. Your tornado energy today is on the lower end, but notice we do have some little kinks of some of that red into portions of Iowa, which is why that is our highest risk zone for tornadoes for the day today. That's where those ingredients, the cooler, the warmer, meeting up, high dew points moving on in. We've got a good deal of some of that wind shear as well. That's going to support this. So here's that remnant cluster of showers and storms really showing that bow segment as it pushes on south and east. 11 and 10 o'clock this morning, depending on whether you're Eastern time and Central time. Keep an eye on that time stand on the top. You can see this pushing on down in portions of places like Louisville, Kentucky this morning. We'll see that going on down further south. 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Central. You can see these storms really diving on down into the Appalachians. Also notice how we get some of these new storms to start firing back up on off to the west as well as into Texas. And the storms in the plains really get firing up as the evening turns on. We'll see some of these storms as well into Iowa. Look at how they really blossom around 11 p.m. Eastern time, 10 Central. Places like Chicago, you might see some of the flashes off to your west this evening. Once the sun gets down, you'll see some of those storms also back in portions of Iowa and Texas. Those will really kind of weaken into portions of Texas, but the ones will really still be going strong, the ones that are around Iowa, portions of Illinois. That's where these storms are really going to be feisty tonight. And then notice it turns into a damaging wind threat as the night progresses. Now, Sunday flood risk, again, that level 2 risk goes out of portions of Iowa as into portions of Illinois. That level 1 risk goes as far south and east as West Virginia into portions of North Tennessee. Again, notice some of these rainfall totals. Look, some 4-inch totals there into portions of Kentucky. That'll be on the higher end, but certainly a good inch for many of us that pick up on some of these showers and thunderstorms in the upper Midwest and Ohio Valley. For your Monday setup, we've got that level 2 risk of severe storms is going to be in portions of Missouri and Illinois. Notice how we still stay unsettled across many portions of the east as well as the north tier. We've got some of that mixed precipitation curling back around. In portions of the west, 80s and 90s continue basically for the south and eastern half of our United States, as well as places like Texas, Oklahoma. Again, we'll see some spots near 100. I can rest assure you, maybe Amarillo to Abilene, some of these really hot temperatures in the 70s and then eventually 60s in the northern tier. But here's that severe weather risk. We can see it curling on around for here. Level 1 from places like the Dallas, Fort Worth, just west of you, really curling back around. And then we'll see that curl all the way over into portions of North Carolina and Tennessee as well. And then here's a look at your Monday afternoon storms. We've got them really firing on up from places like Indiana back west into Missouri. Some of these also getting going into some of these southern zones. It's really going to get going for us here. And then a level 2 risk, Kansas and Oklahoma on your Tuesday, with all of that rainfall getting going all around it. Your Tuesday high temperatures making their way on up into the 80s and 90s for many southern zones and into the 70s in many northern zones. Here we go. Tuesday afternoon, more severe storms, but especially here, South Kansas, portions of Oklahoma. That's where that risk will be the highest. And then Wednesday, we've got those temperatures making their way on up into the 80s and 90s once again for the southern zones. So it's going to be really on the higher side of these temperatures. That continues Thursday. Friday, so really everybody but in this zone for you here where we actually have the critical fire weather today, everybody but there is basically going to be on the warmer side of average. Wednesday evening rainfall, we'll see some more of these storms get going. You can see some of them quite feisty at times, which is why I'm thinking there's at least a minimal severe certainty from portions of Montana all the way down into portions of the panhandle of Oklahoma on Wednesday. And that increases to maybe medium certainty with the Storm Prediction Center outlining this area on Thursday, a broader zone from the Dakotas down into Texas, and then Friday that continues barely to dip south and east, portions of Kansas back into portions of west central Texas. The main story this week, though, is going to be more of these systems in the plains tapping into that heat and instability, and we'll see, look at these rainfall totals, many spots picking up 2 to 5 inches of rain, all the way from portions of Montana, curling all the way back around to the Gulf Coast. This is going to be some heavy downpours getting going into some of these zones, Ohio Valley as well. Just look at how this rainfall repeats over some of these areas in the Ohio Valley early this week, and then as we go towards the middle of this week, more systems developing back into portions of the plains. So we got to really keep an eye on this. Of course, precipitation looking higher than normal across the plains, with those temperatures looking above normal for almost everybody. Look at that. Pacific Northwest well above normal. Subscribe, hit the like button. Here's the credits. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy your Sunday and have a great day.